Enlil was one of the supreme deities of the Mesopotamian pantheon. He decreed the fates, his command could not be altered, and he was the god who granted kingship. His temple, Iker, the mountain house, was located in the city of Nippur, the religious center of Mesopotamia up until the 2nd millennium before Common Era. His temple was the most important temple in all of southern Mesopotamia. Functions: there has been much debate concerning the writing, etymology, and hence meaning of Enlil's name. These elements are important to discuss because they also relate to an analysis of this deity's functions. The writing and reading of this deity's name is not certain, and even if we do read Enlil, the translation of Lil is contentious. The Sumerian word Lil, whose Akkadian equivalent is Zakik, means ghost, phantom, haunted, but a translation of Enlil's name as Lord Ghost makes little sense in the context of his mythological attestations. The interpretation of Lil as wind is apparently a secondary development of the 1st millennium before Common Era, which has led to an interpretation of Enlil's name as Lord Wind or Lord Air. This interpretation has led some scholars to reconstruct a vertically ordered cosmology that consisted of the gods An, Enlil, and Enki, but this remains very problematic. Other scholars make reference to Enlil as the Lord of the Air, when he is seen acting in coordination with the storms and winds, for example, Enlil the roaring storm. There are issues, however, with both ideas. The vertical ordering of Mesopotamian pantheon is rather simplistic, and the references to Enlil as a storm are usually in the context of wider destruction, where the storm could be opposite imagery for Enlil as a powerful, devastating god rather than as a specific storm deity, for example, the lament for Sumer and Urim, Etxl. Without question Enlil, with An and Enki, form the supreme Mesopotamian triad of deities. Moreover, Enlil's prominence and power can be seen in his titles and epithets: the Great Mountain, King of all the lands, Father of the black-headed people, Father of the gods, and Nanamn, the well-respected, the latter being Enlil's name that is only mentioned in literary and religious texts. Moreover, Enlil's position as a supreme deity was abstracted to the concept of Ilalatu, Enlilship, a term applied to others, both human and heavenly, who held paramount authority. Enlil's role in the mythology of Mesopotamia is based on his power and authority, and as such he can create and destroy. Enlil is described as the decreer of fates, Etxl 2.4.2.24, 72, and in the Akkadian Anzu myth Enlil holds the Tablet of Destinies, the possessor of which commands the world. It is Enlil who grants kingship to the rulers of Mesopotamia, for example, on the vase inscription of Lugaltsijsi, Enlil gave the name Lugalkalam kingship of the land to Lugaltsijsi, Enlil bestowed kingship on me. Enlil's command is said to be unalterable. Once he had made a decision, there was no way of changing it, although he did have to revise his decision to destroy mankind through the flood, which is told in the Atrahasis myth and the flood tablet of the Gilgamesh epic. In addition, Enlil was a provider, and as such he was declared the Lord of Abundance in a hymn for Susuin. However, Enlil could also take such plenty away and devastate the land. For example, in the lament for Urim, he is said to have brought the storm of abundance away, to have annihilated the land, silenced the city, and destroyed their houses and demolished their walls, Enki and the world order. Some Sumerian myths narrate how other gods visited Enlil to give him the first fruit offerings, for example, Nana. This should be interpreted as a gesture of deference and acknowledgement of Enlil's highest authority. In the Akkadian literature, Enlil's almighty but malevolent nature is often portrayed. In one devotional poem, Enlil is described as king of heaven and the netherworld, whose command no god can set aside, the lord of destinies, the nominator of kings. But other poems are specifically aimed to ease his anger, and his devastating side is clear in the myth of Atrahasis, where it is Enlil who sends the drought, the plague, the flood. Divine genealogy and syncretisms. Enlil is considered in most traditions to be the firstborn son of An, and brother of the goddess Aru. The god list an equals Anum, however, lists him as a descendant of Enki and Ninki. Enlil's wife is Nin-Isina, and his sons include Ninata, Ninasut, Nina and Namta. Other deities, however, are also described as his children, for example, Nergal, Ninasut, Inanna, Utu, and Iska. In another tradition, Sud, the goddess of Sarupag, is equated with Nin-Isina, and made the wife of Enlil, possibly as a mythological explanation for the absorption of Sarupag into the pantheon of Nippur. Enlil's vizier and messenger was Nusku. Cult places. The main sanctuary of Enlil was the Eker mountain house at Nippur, in central southern Mesopotamia, and this temple is described in the Sumerian hymn to the Eker. This sanctuary dates at least to the Akkadian period, and next to it stood the temple tower, the Dur Kibond of heaven and earth, built by Urnama. The Eker was rebuilt, refurbished a number of times, for example, in the 2nd millennium by Kadasman Enlil-II of the Kassite dynasty, and in the 1st millennium as Ahadn of Assyria and Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon. Enlil was also worshipped in other cities, for example, a ziggurat for Enlil in Assur built by Samsi-Adad-I, an old Babylonian temple to Enlil in Babylon, a ziggurat and temple quarter dedicated to Enlil at Dur-Origiltsu, which was the capital of the Kassite dynasty, and Luke suggests a temple to Enlil outside of Mesopotamia in Elam. Time periods attested in the 4th millennium. The combination of signs later used to write the name Enlil has been suggested to act only as a troponym, and refer to the city of Nippur, but this understanding remains highly contested. This sequence of signs appears on the late Uruk Archaic City List, Archaic City Seal impressions, and various administrative documents. Wang, who has produced the most recent study of this subject, proposes that the combination of signs used to write the troponym for Nippur came to be a writing for the deity Enlil at about the time of late Uruk, early dynastic period transition. Wang suggests that the deity Enlil might have come to be worshipped at Nippur at this time, and subsequently taken the writing of the toponym for the writing for his divine name. From the early dynastic through Ur-III periods, Enlil appears among the first of the listed deities on the various god lists. There are instances of personal names composed with Enlil, offering lists mentioning him, and his own temple officials. In the early dynastic literature and the Zami, praise hymns from Abu Salabak, Enlil is already supreme among the gods, and on the vase inscription of Lugal-Tsigsi, Enlil is titled Lugal-Kurkura, king of all the lands. It is from the Akkadian period that we have the first definitive evidence for the Eker, which was built by Sarkali-Sari, and in the Ur-III period, Urnama builds the ziggurat for Enlil. Enlil is paramount during the Ur-III period. He regularly appears as the supreme and powerful deity in the year names of the period, and he is the major recipient of those offerings made at Nippur and administered at Pusri-Stagan. Additionally, Enlil is frequently attested in the royal inscriptions of the period, and in the literature the Ur-III kings are called the sons of Enlil, for example, Sulgi in the debate between bird and fish, Exl 5.3.5, 146. And Dagon and Ism Dagon, kings of Isin, frequently exalt Enlil as their principal deity, and even as their father. Moreover, his cult at Nippur receives offerings throughout the Nin-Isina period. Roughly contemporary with these southern Mesopotamian kings, Samsi-Adad-I of Assyria builds a temple for Enlil at Assur. With the ascendancy of Babylon in the second millennium, Enlil begins to lose prominence to the ever more powerful and important Marduk, the city deity of Babylon. Even prior to this, however, the Anzu myth relates the ascendancy of Nin-Isina at the expense of his father Enlil. Enlil does, however, remain a significant deity throughout the second millennium. In the Old Babylonian period he continues to receive offerings at Nippur, appear in personal names, for example, Englil-Ipus, and is even considered to have granted Hammurabi victory over Rimsin I of Larsa. In the law code of Hammurabi, the king is said to have been chosen by Enlil, and even when Marduk's rise to power is described, he is said to have been given Enlilship over the people by Enlil. The rise of Marduk at the expense of Enlil is still complicated and poorly understood. It is perhaps best known from the creation epic, Enuma Elish, where it is only Marduk who dares to confront and then defeat the enemy Tiamat, an act which elevates him to the head of the pantheon. This myth has been thought by some to have been composed at the time of Kassite dynasty of Mesopotamia, which was based at Babylonia, and to act as a metaphor, explanation for the supremacy of Babylon. But whenever this epic was composed, Enlil remained important enough to the Kassites for them to build a new temple quarter for him at Babylon, and for him to appear in royal names of the dynasty, suggesting a personal devotion of even the Kassite rulers to this great god. In the first millennium the great gods Assur, Marduk and Nabu were supreme, but Enlil's power was clearly remembered, for even they were referred to as the Assyrian Enlil or the Enlil of the gods. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel.